In today's video, we are going to be talking color grading or color toning, basically edits on your images that alter the coloring of your image. You can achieve this in a number of ways, and I've discovered a new tool called Infinite Color, and I'm going to be showing you how I use Infinite Color and the power that it gives you in terms of color grading and how quick it is to use. So I'm really excited to share this with you. What I'm going to show you today is a new tool. It's by the famous retoucher called Pratik Naik, and him and his team have basically pulled together a panel that sits in Photoshop. It just gives you the power to color grade your images really quickly through sets of layers, preset layers that they have programmed and coded into this panel in Photoshop. It's really powerful. I've loved it. So we're going to dive into Photoshop and the panel, and I'm going to show you how I've used it to achieve some results on a couple of my images. So I've brought a few images into Photoshop, and I'm just going to show you how the Infinite Color Palette works. Once you've downloaded it and installed it, it will look like this when it's maximized. It looks like that when it's minimized. Now, I didn't read any instructions or any tutorials. I just went straight ahead and started pressing buttons. And the first thing that I did was I toggled on these shuffle buttons, and what it was doing for me was it was creating a curve layer, and I was like, oh, that's quite straightforward. But then when I clicked it again, it gave me a different variation and a different variation and a different variation. So it gave me lots of different kinds of curve layers and the possibilities of what I could do with curves. I then started hitting the color balance tool, and it was doing the same thing. And I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. I can't believe they've done this. This is so cool. And so it was just creating the layers, and in a couple of clicks, I could see lots of different variations without having to push each of the sliders. If I open it, having to come up with all these combinations myself, it was such a time saver. I thought, wow, this is brilliant. Then I found out actually it can do a whole combination of these layers for me if I just hit create. So if I hit the create button, it gives me a whole bunch of these layer sets. If I then get rid of that and I turn certain things off, so only curves and color balance is left on, and I hit create, it only creates me the layers that I've actually got switched on. If I then hit create again, it creates all those different combinations in those layers, only for the ones that I've selected. And then you can see which one is your personal preference. So that's not something I'm going to give my opinion on, because everybody's got their own eye and their own preference for the kind of color grading that they like to see. But if you're new to color grading, if you've been a bit scared of creating lots of different adjustment layers, pushing your colors and your color sliders in a way that you're kind of like, you lose track of where you were and you're like, does this look good? I don't know. This tool is doing a lot of that for you. And all you have to do is hit create, and you can see which one that you land on that you like. With usual layers, you can do the same stuff that you could do with a normal adjustment layer. You can turn them on and off, etc. And it just speeds everything up. So I'm really liking how this is looking at the moment. So yeah, I think that's really nice. If I show you a before and an after, a before and an after, you can see that it's just cooled the whole image down. It's given it a slightly sort of retro vibe to it. I quite like how that's looking. So if I go into another image, it's a slightly brighter image from that same shoot. It's got lots and lots of sort of highlights in the background, and I'll show you what the create function looks like here. I might add a color lookup as well layer. So If I do create, you can see that pops the contrast as well. I hit create again and it gives me a different look. Hit create, create, create. And I'm just loving it. It just gives me so many different options for different combinations of color grading. You can also, once you've got that create, within the layers that it creates for you, you can then shuffle layer by layer the different combinations. So if I was to do a different curve, sort of tones on here, it gives me different looks. I like that sort of slightly retro feel that this is giving, quite contrasty. What if I was to do the colour balance? That's looking a bit green. That's looking quite nice. I quite like, I'm into pink shadows at the moment, so I quite like how that's looking. That looks a bit more natural to me. So you can toggle through and you can see from a colour balance perspective all the different combinations that you can have there as well. So it's just a really powerful tool to help you play around. If you're, like I said, if you're not that confident with it, you can just hit the create button and keep hitting create until you land on something that you like. If you are pro and you know how to do all of these things individually, what this does for you is it can just speed up your workflow. So it's brilliant in that way. So you can see a before and an after, a before and an after on how that's looking as well. I also wanted to see how it would work on a studio shot beauty image that I have here, and there's a function called harmonize, and harmonize basically will take the color of your highlight, the predominant highlights in your image, and in this case it'll probably most likely be a creamy color, and then it will triangulate on the color wheel your midtones and your shadows. So let me just show you what that does. So based on the creamy colour highlight, it has now created a green mid-tone for me and a pink shadow for me. So I'm thinking that that's looking a bit too cool, a bit too greenish. So if I was to bring that down into the orange tone, I quite like how that's looking. You can change these colours up. It will create what it thinks is the sort of best balance for the image, and you can then play around with it. You can also set the opacity to something sort of lower than that so that you can have a less intense effect, or you can have it to the full effect. So it's just a really powerful tool to help you bring out a nice colour grade in a really easy way based on your shadows, your midtones and your highlight. And in Lightroom, the equivalent of that would be split toning, and harmonize is the function on the Infinite Color palette. If I show you a before and an after and a before and an after, you can see that there's a subtle sort of warming effect. My last image is from a location shoot that I did, and it's quite saturated in colour, so I was interested to see what it might give me on that. If I do individual layers for selective colour, you can see I'm toggling through and it gives me different effects. I quite like that one. I'm just going to get rid of that and I'm going to do a bit of create. So if I was to selective colour and the gradient map, let's see what it creates if all of the layers are on. And it gives me quite a warm tone, very golden image. Let's see what happens with colour balance if I was to toggle some of that through. It gives me different combinations for my colour balance. Oh, that looks very pink and very red. That looks very yellow. So you can start to see how that's looking as well. If I show you before, after, before, after. I'm just going to get rid of this and I'm going to show you the harmonize on this as well. I'm going to keep it on medium and let's see what it gives us. I reckon a lot of my images would have very similar harmonize because my highlights are all very creamy skin tones. So, but let's see what it comes up with. Yep, It's given me, again, a pink in the shadows, a green in the midtones, because it's based on a creamy colour highlight. So I'm just going to go back in and I'm going to change that back down to a sort of more orangey colour, and I really quite like that. Now if I was to call this the Harmonise one, oh, I'm English, so we spell it with an S. So if I do Harmonise one, that's a before, that's an after. I'm now going to hit create, but I'm probably not going to want a gradient colour map or the colour lookup, so it's just selective colour, colour balance and curves. Let's hit create and see what that does. Oh, I like that. I like that already. I might see if it gives me some more curve options. Oh, I love that. So you can then build up a number of colour options, and I might put these into a group together so that you can then see the before and the after and the before and the after. Now, a number of people ask me, are these kinds of things like Lightroom presets or Photoshop actions or LUTs, like lookup tables for videos and for photographs, is this cheating? And I fundamentally don't think that this is cheating. I think that anyone who has gone to the trouble to create something as powerful as this, that cuts down how much time it takes me to edit an image, is amazing. So I think that, you know, if you want to invest in, you know, building photography up as your business, you want to start to maximize your workflow and you want to maximize the time that you spend doing your work versus having a life. And I really do believe that some of this stuff is just magic. I really find this a powerful tool. I hope that you have liked some of my examples from the befores and the afters, and I hope you have lots of fun hitting the create button again and again and again. So there you see that in a couple of clicks you can actually start to color grade your images. If you're not an expert at sort of, you know, reading the light, understanding about midtones, shadows and highlights, it's such a powerful tool for you to learn how different elements and different layers can affect your color grading, but also just speed up your workflow. And like I said, I don't believe this kind of stuff is cheating. I think anything that you can do to help improve your workflow, creators out there like Pratik and his team have, you know, created these tools for us that just speed everything up, that can help you to learn how to do things on your own as well. And, you know, why would I not do that? So I think fantastic. Kudos to the team who have built this. I'm going to be using it a lot and hitting that harmonize, that create button, and I hope that this has served useful to you guys. If you did find this video useful, please hit the subscribe and the like buttons. It really makes a difference to my channel. And if you want to be notified of further videos, I make videos every week, so hit the little bell icon and you'll be notified when my videos are uploaded. Take care and I will see you guys soon. Bye.